Dear listeners, before we start the show, we have two quick announcements for you. First is that we are doing a special episode on cancer awareness this Sunday. On it, we talk about the prevention, detection, and treatment of cancer. And we are doing this in association with GE Healthcare. Again, you will find this special episode on the Three Things feed on Sunday, the 7th of November. The second announcement is that we at Express Audio are going on a Diwali break starting today. So there won't be any episodes of Three Things or Catch Up this week. The next episode of Three Things will be released on Monday, the 8th of November. Until then, we wish you all a very happy and safe Diwali. Now, on with the show. Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargav, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. Right now in the city of Glasgow in the UK, the 2021 United Nations Climate Change Conference is going on. This conference is also known as COP26. It started on Sunday, and to take part in it, leaders from over 190 countries have come together to discuss how to tackle climate change. This is a big conference that everyone concerned about climate change has their eyes on. Indian Express's resident editor from Pune, Amitabh Sinha, who writes on science for the paper, is in Glasgow right now to attend the meet. And he tells us that this conference was supposed to take place last year, but that could not happen because of COVID. But now it is taking place in person, even though the pandemic is far from over.
And, in UK, the cases are still emerging. The cases have not gone silent. So there are new cases that are emerging constantly. And in all this, you have almost like 30,000 people assembling at one venue. And often there is a lot of crowding. In fact, not one center. And you have a large amount of people getting in.
Though there are a lot of precautions that are taking place at the summit. For example, people who are attending the conference like Amitabh have to take COVID tests every day.
We have to undergo daily COVID tests. So they have developed kits. So those rapid kits, do-it-yourself kits are available, which we have to use in the hotel every day before we go. And we have to submit the results to the UK NHS, the National Health System there. And you have to show the results before you get entry into the center. So those kind of precautions are being taken. But still, it's a hugely difficult thing to have an event like this going on when COVID is still prevalent. And everyone who was coming to attend the event, they were required to have vaccines. And in countries or people who did not have access to vaccines, some arrangements were made to deliver vaccines to those countries so that at least the participants could get the vaccines before they came into UK.
The conference started on Sunday. And on Monday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the summit.
ये ऐसे विषय हैं जहां हम में से प्रत्येक को हर रोज कॉन्शियस चॉइस करनी होगी. पूरी दुनिया में करोड़ों अरबों लोगों के हर रोज की ये चॉइसेस क्लाइमेट चेंज के खिलाफ लड़ाई को हर दिन बिलियन स्टेप्स आगे ले जाएगी.
And during this address, he made 5 big-ticket announcements, which he called Panchamrit.
फ्रेंड्स, क्लाइमेट चेंज पर इस वैश्विक मंथन के बीच मैं भारत की ओर से इस चुनौती से निपटने के लिए 5 अमृत तत्व रखना चाहता हूं. पंचामृत की सौगात देना चाहता हूं.
In this episode, Amitabh will be talking to us about what these 5 announcements were and what exactly is their significance.
2 of these are a reiteration of promises that we have made earlier and reiteration with an enhanced target. And at least 2 of them are completely new. There was one that has been discussed earlier, but not in the form of a target. So what are the 5 things that the Prime Minister announced yesterday? One, of course, he announced that India's installed renewable capacity, the renewable energy or electricity generation through renewable energy, that installed capacity would go up to 500 gigawatt. The number that was in existence before this was 450 gigawatt. All this we are talking for the timeline of 2030. So from 450 gigawatts, he increased it to 500 gigawatts. That's number one. Number two is again something that relates to renewable energy. What the Prime Minister actually said that 50% of India's energy requirements in 2030 would be met through renewable energy.
Now he says that during this announcement, it seems that PM Modi used the wrong wording. He probably meant to say something different.
But the exact words he used were this, that India will meet 50% of its energy requirements from renewable energy by 2030. But what he probably meant, most likely what he meant, is that 50% of India's electricity generation, not total energy requirements, but electricity generation would be met through renewable sources. And there is a huge difference between total energy and just electricity. Total energy would include lots of other things, transport, for example, fuel emissions, lots of other things. So I think we'll see a correction, or in the official version, although the speech actually mentions what the Prime Minister said, but the official submission in the UN would probably reflect it correctly. So that's number one. And number two. Number three, he said, and this is totally new. So he said by 2030, India's projected emissions from now till 2030, India will make a 1 billion ton reduction in the total projected emissions from now till 2030. So what that means is if we are emitting, say, 3 billion tons from now, and we are projected to emit around 4 to 4.5 billion tons by 2030, these are annual emissions. So every year, if we add for the next 10 years, 9 years, it would come to about 35 to 40 billion tons of emissions. So from there, he says there would be a 1 billion ton reduction.
He says that this is new. India has never given this kind of a target for itself before, and we'll get into why that is the case later. But for now, just to recap, the first promise is to increase India's installed renewable capacity. Number two, most likely, is that 50% of the Indian electricity consumption would be met by renewable resources. And three is that by 2030, India's projected emissions will come down by 1 billion tons. Now, moving on to number four.
Number fourth, what the Prime Minister said is by 2030, India would reduce the carbon intensity. So carbon intensity is actually the total carbon emissions per unit of GDP. So that is what carbon intensity is. And so what Modi has said is that total carbon intensity of the economy would be reduced by 45%. Now, this used to be 33 to 35% earlier. So it's an enhancement from 33 to 35% to 45% now, the timeline being the same, 2030. And the fifth is what is being talked about. There was a lot of pressure for India to take on. That's the net zero target, for which India has said it will go net zero by 2070. So these are the 5 targets that Modi announced yesterday. Each one of them significant and a progression from our earlier commitments. Out of these 5, only 2 are part of our official commitments already. The 2 that are part of our official commitments are the one on energy intensity, 33 to 35%, which he has now increased to 45%. And the other one is the proportion of renewables in India's electricity generation. So that used to be 40% by 2030, now is increased it to 50% by 2030. So these 2 are increases. The other 3 are new targets.
So these were the 5 things that were announced by Prime Minister Modi. We now take a closer look at them, starting with the promise of reducing 1 billion ton of India's projected emissions. Earlier, we had mentioned how this is a new kind of target for India. Amitabh explains why.
So we have never formulated our climate targets in this kind of manner. So for the first time, we are using a metric which is in terms of absolute emissions. Absolute emission reductions are actually meant to be done only by the developed countries. And we are still not doing reductions in our emissions. All that we are doing is we are deviating from a business as usual scenario. So from here till 2030, if in the business as usual scenario, we were supposed to be emitting, say, 35 billion to 40 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, then we would be deviating from that course and emit 1 billion tons less. So that is the target.
He explains that this target is not like the targets that developed countries are mandated to set. Those targets are more along the lines of bringing the total emissions down by 10, 20 or 30%. But this is different. Our emissions in the future could be anything, but we are only promising to bring them down by 1 billion tons by the year 2030.
Now, supposing we grew very fast during this period, supposing we reach 6 billion tons or 7 billion tons by the year 2030, our commitment remains only to reduce it by 1 billion tons. So if we grow very fast, we still cut only 1 billion tons, right? So it's not proportional, it's not relative to any baseline.
He says that this target is important because it's new. Though it's not very ambitious, most likely India will achieve this target that it has set for itself. But it is a deviation from our business as usual scenario. And another example of deviating from business as usual is the promise to further reduce India's emissions intensity.
In practical terms, in actual reduction terms, what it means is that as India continues to grow its GDP, the pace of growth of its emissions would be slower. The rate of growth of emissions would be slower than the rate of growth of its GDP. That is what the reduction in emissions intensity means. Now, that would also lead to a deviation from the balance of, business as usual scenario. And we'll have to look at the numbers. Yesterday, when the announcement was made, the numbers were not immediately accessible. But the fact that I think a substantial part of this 1 billion ton removal or 1 billion ton of reduction that has been announced would come from this emission intensity reduction itself. We don't know how much as of now, but if we do the numbers, then the estimate is that a substantial portion of this would come from emission intensity reduction.
Now, from talking about reducing emissions, we move on to the promise of increasing India's installed renewable capacity from 450 gigawatts to 500 gigawatts.
Again, over that, there are some mixed thoughts right now. People are still doing the numbers to assess how big that particular target is. So what India has said that from 450 gigawatts, we'll take the installed capacity to 500 gigawatts. So it's an increase of 50 gigawatts. Now, the 450 gigawatts was announced just 2 years ago. Before that, our target was, and this is not a target that's made in the Paris Agreement, but this is a target that we announced even before that. 10 years ago, during the previous government, when we embarked on the renewable energy journey, the initial target was a very modest 20 gigawatts by 2020. And then Modi came in, and in the very first year, he increased it fivefold. And he said by 2022, we should have 100 gigawatts. And here we are talking not in terms of renewables, but only solar.
Amitabh says that at that time, a lot of things were going right for solar energy. The prices for solar panels, for example, had come down by 80%. And there was a global drive to install them everywhere.
So the timing was very right. It was just the right occasion. And so it was ramped up by 5 times. Subsequently, the targets for other renewable sources, wind specifically, and also biogas was also ramped up. And we reached, we started talking in terms of 175 gigawatts of renewable energy, not just solar, by 2022. So that was one of the targets that was publicly given several times.
This target remained there for a number of years, until 2019, when he says Modi at the UN General Assembly announced that going ahead, India is going to take the target of 175 gigawatts to 450 gigawatts. This was a huge jump.
And that is supposed to be not an easy target. I mean, we'll have to work towards that. Also from 450 to 500. So the journey has become a little more difficult. Now, really how difficult and whether it's achievable or not, how much of a stretch it is something that's still not very clear. We're just trying to find out.
And finally, we talk about India agreeing to a net zero emissions target by 2070. Now, net zero is a state in which a country's total emissions are offset by the absorption of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Removing CO2 from the atmosphere can be done by trees and forests or through some futuristic technologies. Over 70 countries had already agreed to do so. And there was a lot of pressure on India to do it as well, especially considering that India had been reluctant to do so.
Our traditional viewpoint on net zero has been that we do not need to take a net zero target. But there was a growing pressure from the international community for India to also take a net zero target. India is the third largest emitter, and we were the biggest emitter and the only country in the G20 which had not taken a net zero target till now. But frankly, what probably the world was hoping for was a net zero target for at least 2060 and not 2070. So the developed world has taken a 2050 target. China has gone for a 2060 target, and now we have announced a 2070 target. Now, frankly, it's too far away to say anything about net zero. Now, eventually, almost all the countries will move towards net zero. I mean, most of them would have to reduce their emissions and also deploy other methods to take the emissions away from the atmosphere, either through absorption or through technological interventions, which are still not very practical as of now. But yeah, they are being talked about.
But Amitabh points out that India's target of doing this by 2070 is too far away.
So that particular target is not something that is very exciting. I think we have just tried to fend off critics who had been demanding India to take a net zero target and said, okay, since you are demanding, we have put an ear to it. But I don't think that one is something which a lot of people would be very excited about.
Though Amitabh does say that the other net zero targets are also technically too far away. Plus, the technologies that are being used right now for achieving net zero targets are not readily available for mass production and are particularly expensive.
Also, we are only delaying a problem. When you are removing the carbon dioxide, and especially in technologies like CCS, carbon capture and storage, where you are actually storing the carbon somewhere, maybe beneath the earth, you are creating a new problem to be dealt with at some other point of time. So there are lots of questions on that kind of measure. It's not a settled matter. Net zero, therefore, is not something that is the most viable solution that seems right now, mainly because questions about technology are not completely settled. So I think of the five, the net zero is probably the most lukewarm in terms of a target. The other ones, each one of them offers some concrete progress. Some of them seem to be more ambitious than the others, but each one of them is a concrete progress from where we were earlier.
Amitabh says that there were a lot of expectations from this climate change meeting, especially considering that it was happening after a year, and also because climate change has only continued to worsen.
So a lot of expectations, a lot of people were hoping that some big action would come. Part of it has been answered, mainly by the Indian announcements. But a lot still needs to be done, especially, the developed countries haven't delivered on the finance promises that were made 10 years ago. And just now they have postponed their deadline by 3 years. Actually, there is very little noise about that. There is very little outrage that is happening over the fact that developed countries have not delivered and do not even intend to deliver in the next 3 years. So while a lot of pressure is exercised on countries like India to stop their power plants, coal power plants, not do more on other things, here you have lots of promises, written promises, by the way, which are part of the Paris Agreement, not being delivered, and there are absolutely no repercussions. And not just repercussions, you don't have any outrage happening anywhere. So that is the nature of the system. But otherwise, there was, at least in terms of expectations, a lot of it has been answered by the Indian announcements yesterday.
Now, talking about India's action plan against climate change, yesterday it launched a new program. This program aims to secure and strengthen the critical infrastructure in small island states against disasters that are induced by climate change, It's called the Infrastructure for Resilient Island States. In terms of strategies, if reducing emissions is mitigation, Amitabh says that this program is about adaptation. You adapt because of how climate change is already affecting you.
What adaptation measures would include, say, securing your low-lying areas and lots of other things, making your crops heat resistant, ensuring water supply in the areas where water is likely to come under stress. So all sorts of adaptation is a very wide field, and all sorts of things fall into the adaptation basket.
You need this kind of strategy because all sorts of extreme weather events are already happening because of climate change.
So there are increased floodings, there are increased rainfall events, there are heat waves, there are cyclones, typhoons, things like this, which affect our infrastructure. For example, the cyclones every year that come on the eastern coast of India, they cause a lot of damage to our infrastructure in that area. Now, thankfully, over the years, we have managed to have a very good early warning system and also an evacuation system so that the loss of life has been reduced to a very large extent. But the damage to the infrastructure is still immense, to the tunes of like billions of dollars every year. And what also happens is that when you have a disaster, then your communication lines go off, your airports and trains stop functioning, your mobile signals go off, your power switches off because there is flooding, all sorts of things happen. So the whole idea is that, no, we need to deal with these disasters in any case, we need to live with them. So why not make our infrastructure more resilient to deal with these disasters?
This is the idea behind this program, which is the first initiative of CDRI, an international coalition that was started by India.
I mean, it's not a body that will create new infrastructure. What it will only do is the member countries will share their best practices, incorporate best practices, either in retrofitting of the existing infrastructure or whatever new infrastructure is being built, the resilience will be built into it so that it can withstand these kind of natural weather events or the vagaries of nature. So that is the idea of CDRI. Now, CDRI was launched 2 years ago, but in the last 1 year, there was COVID. Nothing much happened on that front. So this is the big event. The first main activity of CDRI is being launched, which is special focus on small island states, very small states, single island states, which are the most vulnerable to climate change. And these are the places which are already seeing lots of storm surges, rainfall, flooding, and they have very few infrastructure. So probably one island would have just one airport, and that's its only connection to the rest of the world. And if that airport goes underwater, that island is completely cut off from the rest of the world, isn't it? So it's important to make these infrastructure in the small island states resilient to disaster so that they remain largely unaffected, or if they are affected, they can get back into operation quickly after the disaster is over. So that program is being launched today. It's an India-backed event. It's the idea of India, and then several other countries have joined in.
You were listening to Three Things by The Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargav, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.